Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my experiences. So I've been academic, but also a educator and a consultant on small and medium-sized enterprises, and everything also related to education in that field. I also was a consultant for the European Union, for the OECD and the Inter-American Development Bank. I lived in 7 countries on 4 continents, and later on in my presentation you will know why that is important. At the moment, I am the Director of International Entrepreneurship, Sustainability and Empowerment at the Global Opportunities Commercialisation. And I'm also the Director and the co-founder of our Youth Global Empowerment Organization. If it is okay with you, I would like to share a PowerPoint presentation because I like photos, because it does often. Okay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So I would like to talk about combining digital and human aspects in the digital education topic. At the moment, we are in fact in the digitization stage. So what we are doing right now is simply replacing physical artifacts with digital version. And I gave this picture here of the typewriter has been replaced by the personal computer. And that's what we also see today when we talk about digital education. Often it's simply using digital tools. Like, for example, we use now digital report cards in Australia instead of the paper report cards. But it's not really a fundamental change to enhance learning yet. So to move to that, we have to go into the digitalization stage, in fact. But that means that we have a lot of challenges to overcome. And challenges are related to the traditional education models. And then we can, in fact, add disruptive innovations to enhance their learning and bring solutions that really enhance that learning and make it even more enjoyable learning experiences for students and also for the teacher. At the moment, what we see now is often the education sector, what we look at is a competition model. So we have competition between the students to try to be the best. We have also competition between the universities. Everybody wants to be at the best university. And the ranking depends on a lot of criteria, and often even these criteria are not very clear. Then we have even a competition between teachers, because they get the awards of best teacher. But if we'll go on with this type of competition models, that we are not really going to a personal development model. And that means that the majority of us are going to be losers. Sorry to say it so bluntly, but that is going to be the case, because there can only be a few that will be number 1. And that gives a mental burden also to a lot of students, for example, to a lot of teachers, and often also even to the universities themselves, because in that system, not everybody can feel like a winner. But there is a possibility that everybody can be a winner, in fact. And if we go away from that model, then also, in fact, that will benefit the whole economy of a country. So we are still in a stage where we don't focus really on the potential of all students. We still are in fact, in that industrial age thinking of having or creating and helping students to reach certain criteria that fit in still being able to be in that line of work. But as already Dr. Roy was saying, that is not going to be the model anymore, because the job jobs that we will have in the future. So we have to step away from that thinking. So we should be focusing also with, in fact, and that digitalization can help with that, is also focusing on how to learn and on practicing, instead of focusing what is happening now is what to learn for a test. So we should maybe get away from that learn to be good at a test way, because that will not be good for the future. It's not the test of today that will help to be students that will have a job tomorrow. So we should start maybe learning and use more like the virtual reality tools, for example, where we have the simulation and the real life examples. And we have that already, like I know somebody who was in a training for a firefighter. And so there was a simulation of a fire, and that's the way he was trained. And that training went much faster than simply learning something by books. And it was also safer because what he learned, he practiced immediately. And so that could also, these type of models could be implemented also in our education for primary, secondary, and also at university level students. What is also important is this connection of students globally. And that is already pretty well done, but it can still be advanced. So coming back to the evaluation, it's based on what the student knows and his or her potential instead of what the student does not know. That is at the moment what is often happening, and a lot of students feel that they get a stigma on them, like that they are a failure. It also leads to a lot of exclusion because only a certain amount of students will be allowed in certain education parts, but that means that we are leaving a lot of potential behind. Because I am a real believer that every person has something special. They have a certain passion that they are very good at, and that a lot of other people are not good at. And so if we could focus on that, that would help a lot of people in the world. And how also how we are evaluated can be revised. For example, one of the evaluation systems used in Montessori education is that they initiate a lesson to a person, then they let that person practice, and then that from that practicing level, they go to the mastering level. When they are in that mastering level, how they are evaluated is when they can teach what they learn to somebody else. And then, of course, that gives a student also a feeling of proudness because they are able to help others as well. And you find that type of evaluation already back in the gaming industry as well, right? For those of you who like to play games, often it is in levels, and they keep it as exciting as possible. And then when you reach a higher level, it gets even more exciting. And so it keeps you going on and it also will help you to stay motivated, and it stays fun. And so you keep that love of learning because you want to learn, really, because you really like to learn. So that could be other ideas that could be integrated in all the digital tools that can be used, but later on also even integrated in artificial intelligence, for example. Now, what I think is very important is that we keep the human aspect. Because when we talk about digital tools, we often think only about the machinery. Or we see it like in the 80s, like a big black world where you have these beams of light that come out. But that is not the case. The most important is still the human in there. And for education, of course, that is a teacher. The teacher needs to be there. So we need to make sure that when we develop new digital tools and new ways of teaching, that the joy for teaching by the teacher still is there. And also that interaction with that student is still very important. And I can give you an example. When my daughter was in the lockdown for COVID-19 and they had to learn at school, there was that digital interaction. So they used Teams, and for her, it was just fine. It was no problem doing it that way. But she said, Mom, it's very important that my teacher was there. So the whole time the teacher was still available there. So they were not giving like, okay, these are your tasks. This is what you need to do. No, the teacher was always available there. And that she felt like, okay, this made her comfortable and that made the change not so big. So that interaction between teacher and student will always be important. And that's when the teacher can be more like a companion on this curvy, bumpy road of learning, right? Because it's a curvy, bumpy road. You don't have to be right from the first time. You are allowed to make mistakes. And when the teacher is more there, a companion, a cheerleader, that is also very important for the well-being of the student. So another important person in the education is, of course, the student self. So here I looked at the classroom and you see that all these students are working on other projects. They are not doing the same at the same time. And that is important, that we can deliver more in the future, that, and what Dr. Roy in fact also was saying, that more customized approach. The personal learning, that is very important. And it is important that we can keep them happy, make learning fun and playful. And in fact, digital tools can be very easy used for that, to make it more fun, more playful. We see that already in the gaming industry, and that can be translated to what I found often when I was a student, very boring classes. They can be made much more fun, much more playful. What we also do, for example, in our Youth Global Empowerment organization, is when we start working with students, we focus first on their passion. We are not going to say, you will have to learn this and this and this. No, we start and have conversations. We let them, by show and tell, we try to find out what are your passions. And from their interest, we will start the whole process of learning. And what we found there is that these students, they really want to be there. They really are very enthusiastic what they are going to learn. And in the meantime, so one of the projects, for example, is one student wanted to have build a gas installation, because she wanted to reduce the organic materials that were in her school and were only used in compost. But she wanted to make it that she would have compost and at the same time also gas, so that the stoves in her school could use that gas. So that was a circular economy project. And because that was her passion, she wanted to reduce as much, first of all, pollution, but also as much waste in her school. And so because we started from there, she started to learn about chemistry. She started to learn about biology aspects. They had to, and then she found some friends also to work together on this. So they learned on team working. And at the same time also, they were learning about how to take measurements of gas content. How do you measure that? And then also they had to build the whole prototype. So there was a lot of learning going on, but for them it was not really like sitting in a classroom being bored, or sitting in front of a computer and having to follow a lecture. No, for them it was really fun and something that they really were passionate about. And it was amazing how many learning aspects they got out of it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
So that,
Sorry for the interruption, but
Yes.
please try to finish this within the time, ma'am.
Yes, I'm almost ready. Yeah, and that is that personal learning and that change, and also adapting it to the learning style, and also to their time conscious. Yeah. And then we also embrace lessons found in nature. For example, there are apps that you can use now, and you point it to a rock and you can see what kind of minerals are in there. So these type of things make it also more fun. So we reduce competition, but we increase cooperation. And what we also want to bring in is the global positive experiences, because that leads in the end, that leads to respect, and also will lead to world peace. And when we do it the right way, we can not only reach number 4 of quality education, in fact, we can reach a lot of the other sustainability development goals of the United Nations. And I want to end with a quote of Maria Montessori, because happiness, I think, of the students is very important. And if you would like more information about our Youth Global Empowerment Program, I'll be happy to share and connect with you on an individual level. Okay, thank you so much for your time.